Namaste and welcome to Live, Love, Engage. I am your host, Gloria Grace Rand, and today I've got a guest on the show who is an expert at what we are actually doing here today, which is podcasts. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him in a second, but first I want to welcome David Perez all the way from Colombia today. So welcome, David.
Thank you very much for having me, Gloria.
Yeah, I am delighted to talk with you. So I'm going to tell you why this guy is an expert. He is a podcast producer who actually helps health and wellness coaches build their audiences, grow their online presence, and find
hmm
their voice through podcasts. And he's also, of course, a podcast host himself for a show called Audience Coach, which is focused on helping coaches start and run their own shows. And he has accompanied podcasters through the production and release of over 1,000 podcast episodes, been featured in a ton of publications, which I'll have a lot of the stuff in the show notes for you. But essentially, he really helps people develop podcast content and devise it and come up with strategies to help business owners. So I thought where we'd start is not only why someone should start a podcast, but is it too late to start a podcast? Because it seems like it's got a chance of being oversaturated. Oh, yeah, oversaturated, if I can speak properly today. So,
hmm
is it number one? Is it still a good time to start a podcast? And then, why should a small business owner do it?
Okay. So, is it too late to start a podcast? I think, I mean, absolutely, it's not too late. It will be the same question: that is it too late to start a blog, or is it too late to start a YouTube channel? I think every single channel, no matter what channel you pick, is gonna be saturated. Social media, blogs, podcasting, whatever you do, there's always gonna be saturation. That's why niching down is important. So it's not about being late. It's about just picking a niche and being consistent.
Mm,
A lot of podcasts, like so many podcasts, do not go beyond their 10th episode. So in the
wow.
end, yeah, I mean it's just as Joe Pulisti, who is a content marketer, says, it's a war of attrition. Like,
Mm,
podcasting, just like any other kind of content strategy for a business, is a long-term game. So you need to plan for the long term,
mm,
and there are always going to be new things. There are going to be always like other shows. There's going to be a lot of competition, but it's a matter of you finding your space, your spot in your niche, yeah, in
mm.
your market, in your industry.
Awesome. So, how does it benefit small business owners in particular? Why should they consider starting a podcast?
Oh, there are so many reasons. There are so many reasons. I can list two or three of them. First of all, you're going to be able to build yourself an image as an expert in your area, okay?
Mm,
Because you're going to be sharing information that is just going to be just information that is going to be out there, but many times it's going to be practical advice that the listeners can apply themselves into their lives, into their like daily lives. For example, if the podcast is about weight loss, so they're going to be able to take your knowledge, apply that into their lives, and see if it works, if it resonates with them. And then that will give you the image of an authority, of an expert in the area, and potentially give you leads. Not just leads, but qualified leads, because these
mm,
people already know you, they
right.
already trust you, they already know what you have to offer, and they know if it works for them.
Mm,
So that's gonna be very, very important. There are other sides, like beyond just the listener side. On your side, for example, it's a very nice opportunity to connect with other people in your industry, to network, because running a podcast is having conversations with people. Like, you and I are having a conversation right now. I'm sure you've had a lot of guests before me. You're going to have a lot of more guests after me. And from all of them, you're going to be learning new stuff. You're going to be improving your own practice, and
mhm,
you're going to be connecting with other experts in other areas. So anytime you need to maybe face a challenge, or maybe you need to do a collaboration with somebody, you already have that network there, and you can support each other.
mm,
And a third point, which I think is connected to the second one, which is very important, you're gonna be able to self reflect on your practice.
mm,
podcast is a very like having conversations through a podcast is a very nice way of getting out of the echo chamber,
Yeah.
because like sometimes we have conceptions about our practice, about our knowledge, about our approach, but then we have a conversation with other person, and we think, oh my god, okay, this is a new approach, I had never thought of this, even if it's something I had known for a while. It's
Mhm.
a completely new approach to it, so like it's a very nice way to reevaluate the way you process things, the way you approach things, and the way you do things in your practice. So I think in every single aspect of your business, internal and external, is a positive contribution.
Absolutely. And it's, I love that last point because I was just interviewing someone yesterday who we are in alignment in how we work with people, but she comes at it from a different way and just really made me aware of something in my own personal life that was just so mind blowing, frankly,
Hmm. Yes.
and so beneficial to me. And we also connected afterwards because she had written a book, I've written a book, so we exchanged books. So so now we can kind of continue developing that relationship. Um, so I love all those reasons. It's definitely some of the reasons that I even started this podcast.
Hmm.
Um, how you talked a little bit about being able to listen to the audience. I think you said, but how does a podcast actually help you to really engage authentically? Because that's part of what my Live, Love, Engage title is about. It's about living fully, loving deeply, and engaging authentically. So how
Hmm.
does that help you engage with your audience?
Okay, it will depend a lot on your own personality and what you consider to be authentic. Some people express themselves better on social media. Some
Mm,
people express themselves better on video, on written language, or on audio. So, for example, in my case, it's not so easy for me just to pop up on like social media or Instagram Reels. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs who do these dances and these choreographies. I mean, it's fine; it's what works for them, but it's not what works for me.
right.
So, first of all, you need to identify if the format is something that resonates and connects with who you are and how you like to express yourself. This
Mm,
is the case. The other thing is it takes practice, Gloria. Like if it's the first time you're gonna run a podcast show, it's not gonna be natural. The first episodes, even my own episodes, were so robotic and
yeah.
maybe a little bit dull. And I was like tense. I was very
Oh,
tense.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But as you do it more and more, you get accustomed to talking into the mic. It becomes so natural. So you don't prepare a script. You just create some ideas, the bullet points, and it flows. It
Hmm.
absolutely flows. And the nice thing about podcasting is that it's so intimate. It's
Yes.
dialogue. Even
Right.
like if the person listening is not actively speaking with you, it's still a dialogue. What I see people react to usually is like they say, I listen to the show and I feel like I am just there. I am part of the conversation. I am sitting in the
Mhm.
room speaking to these people, which is something, for example, video doesn't have, even though video is supposed to have a lot more engagement. The visuals are usually a distraction because if you're watching a video on a cell phone, you get all these notifications, all these things, because that's how cell phones are designed.
Mhm.
Whereas with a podcast, you can be yourself, you can express yourself, and you can connect with other people for who you are. No distractions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in fact, I know sometimes you watch videos and actually I was watching a training the other day where I think she had like two different she had like a camera and her phone or and her
Hmm.
laptop going, but she was looking over here, and instead of looking at me. And it's like
Yes.
so that can be distracting. And so it is nice to have sometimes just to be able to listen because that way you get
Hmm.
to engage your imagination and you can really connect with someone that way. And
Yes.
going to ask you something else and now it went out of my head but it'll come back. Oh, I know. Yeah. One of the things I find, and maybe you can talk about this as well, is I found that if you are especially doing an interview style of a podcast, that uh, it can help you to hopefully you learn to get better at interviewing. Because I know when I first started I wasn't very good, and I really have found in doing this now for over a year, almost a year and a half, that I do attempt to make a better job of listening to the guest and really being present with them and then asking a question as opposed to just saying, oh, concentrating on what am I going to ask next? What am I going to say?
Hmm.
So can you talk about that a little bit? Have you found that even in your, how you've been doing a podcast at all?
So like the question is like, what is the process like to improve your skills in the terms of running interviews?
Yeah, yeah. Have you found that, especially because we talked about it, you talked about it
Mm-hmm.
a minute ago about how, it can be a little rough in the beginning, even just talking yourself. So have you
Yes.
found, uh,
Okay. Yes, I've learned that. Okay, my first interviews were not very nice because, as you mentioned, I was just concerned about getting going through the questions and getting the answers,
yeah,
just like a questionnaire. And I think it's not that nice
yeah,
because you are not establishing that rapport with the person you're talking to. What you want to build eventually is a conversation, and I think that's the key to it. An interview is not just like you asking questions, the other person responding. It's just you establishing a conversation, and those questions are just like a guideline, like an
right,
outline for the whole. It holds the frame so you don't go off topic, but those questions are just a reference for you to have a conversation.
yeah,
Um, and I think it's just like everything in human interactions. With some people, you connect like very easily, and the
mm,
conversation flows. You crack jokes and you have fun, and like you go a little bit personal. With some other people, like maybe they are not so open. There is no great chemistry, so maybe you go like, okay, question answer dynamics. But it depends. It depends on so many factors like personalities, and also like what kind of day the person is having. Maybe they've had a rough day, a rough week. They're stressed. We don't know. But in the end, I think that the bottom of this is make it very human. Like, do not focus on just getting the information that through the questions, but building that rapport, like talking to the person, caring about what the person is saying,
mm,
establishing that interaction, and then the conversation will flow. That's why, and I think we did this right before we started recording. I always ask a few personal questions. Where are you based? What's the
right,
weather like over there? If you maybe there is a cat around. I know
yeah,
cats love to be around when people are recording podcasts, and they just interrupt. They freaking love it. uh, so like that builds a rapport. Like first, the basis of it all is the human interaction, the human rapport. The questions come after.
yeah, absolutely. And boy, oh boy, I'm really, I think I'm just so focused on listening to you today. I'm like totally not even like losing track of what I want to talk about. Because I love this topic, but oh, I know what I wanted to ask you about. And I think I probably just demonstrated one of them. Have you found that there are maybe some top mistakes that people make when they start, even when they start a podcast or even as they're going through it? Have you found some
Hmm.
typical things that people mess up with?
Yes. Yeah, there are several mistakes I've seen in podcasts. One of them is in terms of content, they are too broad or too vague in terms of what they cover.
Mm,
A podcast is not just you recording a random conversation between two people. Like a podcast is you recording a conversation around a very specific topic aimed at helping the listener tackle a challenge or achieve an objective.
mm,
So I've seen sometimes like podcast episodes that cover a lot of topics, but they don't go very deep into any of these topics. So like there is nothing we learn or like nothing we can take, or there are very few
mm,
takeaways. So like focusing the general topic or the topic of the show, and then focusing the topics of each of the episodes is very important. If you
mm,
go very broad, like you're gonna be talking about a lot of things, but not contributing to the audience. That's one thing. The other thing is probably not taking care of your audio quality. A lot of
mm,
I've listened to podcasts, like it's very hard to make up what they're saying because their recording space is very echoey, or maybe the microphone is not working properly. So that's something you need to pay attention to. It's a technical thing, but it's important. I always advise people to buy a microphone. You don't have to break the bank. Just go buy. Like, there are some $100 microphones that work well, and they will serve you like for 10 years. And you can use them for webinars or for online summits and all these things. So like they are multi-purpose actually.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is thinking short term. That's quite common. Like, oh, it doesn't work like Facebook ads or like any ad campaign. Like, you're not gonna get results after 2 weeks of running the show. This is a long term game,
Mm,
and you're not looking to a podcast. Looking at a podcast as a transaction is not the right way to look at it. A
mm,
podcast is a way to building relationships with other people in the industry and with your audience, and that's going to take weeks, months, even years. So you're not going to get results and sales and leads after 4 weeks. It takes
mm.
time
Yeah.
because it's a matter of listening to your audience, knowing what they need, and building relationships.
Yeah, that's for sure. It definitely does take time. And I know when I first started mine, it was like, oh, kind of sad seeing the number of
Yes,
downloads. But then
ups and
it
downs.
did, yeah. But it started picking up, and I think that is important that to people to remember that it is a long game. That you can't just do 10 episodes. I think people giving up after 10 episodes just seems
Hmm.
totally ludicrous to me. Because if you're going to go to all the trouble of starting it, give it a fair chance. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this question because this was when this is my second iteration of a podcast because I did one
Hmm.
about 5 years ago that was more focused on really on online marketing. And I had taken a course on how to do a podcast, and he recommended that if at all possible, to do as many episodes as you can, because the more episodes you put out there, then you've got the better chance of being able to, have it found, of course, number one, and that you've got that chance of building an audience. Um, but I started out doing 5 days a week, and then life got in the way, as it often does happen. But I
Hmm.
also, I think, just really burnt myself out doing it
Yeah.
that often. So this time around, I vowed to at least do one episode a week, and then if I can do more than that, great. So what do you recommend, especially for someone just starting out and that they're going to do a podcast? What is there, like a sweet spot in how many episodes you should try to do? What's your thought on that?
Yeah. I think you have to start slow and you have to treat yourself nicely, because if you rush to publish like 5 episodes a week, you're going to burn out. And,
Yeah.
and that's sort of the idea. I think in general, the sweet spot for new and for new shows and the shows that have been running for longer, it's one episode a week at least. Like that's the ideal. Like maybe twice a month is harder to build engagement. So I think once a week is just great. Depending on the length of your content, if you have like shorter content, like maybe 10-minute episodes,
Right.
so you can just release two a week.
Mm,
But I think once a week will be just perfect.
mm,
Um, Another recommendation, because as you mentioned, life gets in the way. Like, I'm a
mm,
dad, so like sometimes I gotta go pick up my kids at school, or I gotta
mhm.
go to meetings,
Right.
or I don't know. The other day, my daughter's dog got sick, so I had to take it. All these things,
Yep.
and you cannot sit down and record because like there is life happening. So
Yep.
what I recommend is always batch record. Like, if
Mm,
you have the chance to record like 2 or 3 episodes in a week, 4 episodes in a week, you're gonna have a month's worth of content. So that's very important. That's one thing, Gloria. Is once a week is gonna be fine. If you're comfortable, once you're comfortable, try it twice a week. You can always go back to once a week if that's comfortable to you. And also try to balance the time, because it's not just the time you spend on recording. It's not just a matter of recording. You can put the best content out there, but if nobody sees it, if nobody listens to it, is not going to create an impact. So focus your time more on the promotion side than on the recording side. Like, you can record 4 episodes in a couple of hours, but then you need to spend a lot of time and effort on the promotion. That's going to be key.
yeah. Well, talk a little bit more about that, because I think that is maybe something that people don't often realize is the important part of it, because it isn't just enough.
Yeah,
Yeah. You can't just, it's not like the Field of Dreams movie, build it and they will come. You've got to
yeah.
be able to get people to come. So what are some ways that you can increase your chances of getting people to listen?
Okay. First of all, you need to make sure your content is relevant to the audience.
Mm.
Otherwise, there's no gonna be any engagement.
Mm.
It's not what you think they need or what you think they want. You gotta go there and research what they actually need and want. For example, one thing I do is I look for influencers in the industry, and I see particular posts that are related to what I do, and I go through the comments and I extract all this information. I see what challenges they have, what problems they're having, what complaints, what objectives, what achievements they have. So I'm getting the information directly from them. Not It's not what I think is what, so that is going to make the content relevant. If it's relevant, they are going to consume it more. Now, in terms of promotion, there are several strategies you can do. Always, for example, social media, that is a very popular one.
Mm.
You can generate different kinds of assets for social media promotion. You can generate images, videos, like written copy. You can do that. Social media, it's tricky sometimes because of the algorithm variations. The other way for promoting is the email newsletters. I think the email lists are key. They are paramount. They are very important. And another one, which is the one we are focusing more on, is going on other people's platforms and sharing value with their audiences. I think because in the end, you want to build that rapport and offer and help people. I mean, a podcast is not just putting information out there to help people and to add value to their lives, to their businesses. So getting on other people's platforms, for example, other people's podcasts or people's live streams or Instagram lives, so you can leverage their audience while you provide value.
Mm. Absolutely. Yeah, that's so important. And that's actually what I was doing yesterday when I mentioned
Mm-hmm.
earlier about this interview I was doing. I had already appeared on her podcast, and
Yeah.
now I was having her on my podcast.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because we do have complementary audiences, and so it's a good way to network, to connect, and to be able to
Mm-hmm.
then she'll share my episode with her network. I'll share it with her episode with mine, and yeah, and hopefully we both get a win-win. And I think that's important about it. Um, I think you've talked about this a little bit, but maybe let's get maybe a little bit more specific, because especially I know when I first got started too, especially the last time around, was trying to decide what do I actually want to talk about. So how what are sort of the best ways to figure out, what to talk about if you're going to launch a podcast?
Okay. So there are several strategies you can use for that. So I think the basis of it all, to begin with, is your own knowledge and skills.
Mm,
Because we can talk about any topic, but we need a topic that connects with our skill set, so we can help people through that. So we need to identify what we can do. Like if I'm a coach or an entrepreneur, what is it that I can do? What is the value that I can offer as a coach, as a consultant, as an entrepreneur? What can I do? Okay, because like there are some things that might be interesting, but that are at the moment that might be outside of my reach.
mm,
So that's gonna be one thing. The other thing is start researching for what people are having issues with, common problems, objections, situation like that. Probably if you are having like frequent conversations with potential clients, a lot of common questions are gonna come up. Like you're gonna always have that, like those same 4 or 5 questions that come over and over and over again with every single potential client. So
mm,
you see, okay, these are friction points. I need to
right.
tackle this. You're gonna make a list of that. You're gonna educate your audience so they don't have that friction point anymore. Objections, objectives they have. So you're gonna make a list of all those interactions, and you're gonna start identifying patterns. Even you're having conversations with different people, you will start identifying patterns about what they need. So there, like just from that, like from the conversations you're getting with your clients or potential clients, you're probably going to have like 30 or 40 topics to cover easily,
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
easily.
Yeah.
And the other one is the one I mentioned is go on social media, find an influencer or a creator that covers topics in a similar area or related area to what your area of expertise belongs to, and go in the comments. Just go in the comments, and you're gonna find a lot of people trying to express their achievements or their concerns or
Mm.
their challenges, and that is gonna be very valuable information for you.
Absolutely. I've done that some, but I think I'm going to actually be more, um, not mindful, but really more, yeah, deliberate about it, and in really researching, mining that, because there is
Hmm.
gold in that stuff. Um, Tell me a little bit about you. What is your favorite thing about podcasting? Why do you do it?
Okay, there are two, like personally, there are two favorite things. On the one side, I love gadgets. So I love like maybe the listener can see right now, but I have a lot of gadgets right now. I have like a lot of monitors and like I have two microphones just because. So I just love gadgets. I have to control myself so I don't spend more than I should on microphones and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I love connecting with people. I love having conversations. I'm an introvert, so like if
Mhm.
I'm in a large group, it's gonna be a little bit tough for me to interact with other people. But one-on-one conversations, I just love them, and it's a way to interact and to
Mhm.
learn, not just in terms of like content, but like worldviews and approaches to like even to the same topic, things that seem so simple but some people have such different topics, so like being able to have these conversations that are mind changing,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. And in fact, last year, when the United States was going through a lot of this Black Lives Matter issues, yeah, on top of the pandemic and everything else, I was fortunate to have a couple of guests on who could really speak to that because that was what they lived every day. And it was
Hmm.
very informative for me as a white woman, for those of you who are not watching on YouTube and don't know. So it's important for me to be able to have conversations with people of color. And I've also had people from the LGBTQ community as well, and being able to learn from other people, learn different perspectives. And I do think it's awesome that you also mentioned that you're an introvert, because I am very much that. In certain circumstances, I can be extroverted, but basically,
Hmm.
I am that, and I think this is a great way for people who may feel, challenged, even challenged being seen on social media. I think you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier before that
Yeah.
doing a podcast is really a great way for you to be able to have a little bit more comfort and still be able to promote yourself, but also if you're doing an interview, then promote someone else's point of view. Um, if someone wants to get some advice from you, specifically, and maybe really are ready to dive in, because we still didn't even cover, like, there's even a whole nother side to it, like the technical side, with you've got all the microphones and things
Oh
and editing and
yes.
all that. So I mean,
Yes.
we could talk about podcasting, I think, all day.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so if someone wants to learn more from you, where's the best place that they can, how can they reach out to you?
Okay, if you are considering like to start a podcast or you're running a podcast and maybe you have like a lot of questions, usually the technical side or the strategy side, you can just reach out to me at david at audiencecoach.com or on social media on Instagram. I'm also on Instagram. The thing is audience.coach, but it's better if you reach out to me via email, david
Okay.
at audiencecoach.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, I will make sure that I have that on in the show notes as well today. But I just thank you so much, because it was a pleasure talking to you, and you are, I can tell, a font of information about podcasting. And I didn't even ask you how long have you been doing? How long have you been doing a podcast?
I think over 4 years now.
Oh,
I've been
yeah,
doing this, yeah, over
yeah.
4 years.
Yep. So, yep, you've been around a block a few times, so you definitely know your way around. So, yes.
Yes.
So, if you are listening out there, if you are an entrepreneur or business owner and you want to get started, I would definitely go ahead and reach out to David and get some help, so you can maybe avoid some of those mistakes he talked about earlier today, and get started the right way and save yourself some time and stress.
Yeah, save
Yeah.
yourself some headaches.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again. Thank you again for being on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Gloria.
Yeah, and thank you everyone out there watching on YouTube and or listening on the podcast platform of your choice. So make sure that you, if you're not a subscriber already, I hope you will do that and leave us a rating or comment on Apple as well. And until next time, as always, I encourage you to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.